Hi, this is Pete Moore, welcome to PCMguns. You might recall 3 months ago I reviewed a AKM rifle after the Kalashnikova modernised, which is AK-47 pretty much, from a Polish company called WBP. They make their own versions of the rifle and they do a straight pull manually operated version for the UK market or other markets that don't allow self-loading rifles. And they're imported by C&G Firearms. C&G have worked together with the company to produce this rifle, which is to a very high standard. I say this as I've owned a couple of models of the AKM in my time and shot a number of variants made by different countries, and I have to say, in terms of build quality, finish and general production, this is perhaps the best AK derivative I've actually shot. You know, I mentioned in the article that they also did what I call a tactical version, which I have here. As you can see, there's no real difference to the rifle at all. If you haven't seen the review, if you want them cut and thrust a bit, then go back 3 months onto PCMguns and pick up the review, and it'll tell you about the sights and everything else of the rifle at all. How this differs really is the fact it has synthetic furniture. On the original AKM I tested, it had birch laminate furniture, but this is all polymer pistol grip. But apart from the fore end is very different because it's basically a four-way Picatinny fore end, and it's made, I think, of one aluminium extruding and machining. This is rock solid. But yes, it is different, and I think visually, if you like the AK type thing, then I think this looks a little bit cooler. It also comes with a forward pistol grip you can take off as well, and a rather fanciful flash hider. Okay, so it's no different really, it's the same AK system, but where it does differ, and I think where it will appeal to UK shooters more, certainly to me if I was still shooting practical rifle and service rifle, would be the fact it's chambered in 223 Remington, which compared to the 762x39, which is the original cartridge, is a whole different ball game. Certainly in the UK, where if you're, say, shooting service or practical, you are in sort of military optics class or iron sight class, you're usually up against AR-15s, most of which are sort of semi-bespoke built, like Bob Clark's Southern guns like that. And they are tack drivers, they're excellent. And 223, from the point of view of range work, is a good cartridge. People criticise it for being no good to the military. That's not of interest to me anymore. But it's a good cartridge, light in recoil, accuracy potential is good. So if you're talking about that sort of thing, then any rifle that can shoot tight is interesting. So what we're going to look at is how this differs and see how it shoots. And I have to say, thanks to C&G Guns, they're very generous in their ammunition they sent me. They have a section of their website called Ammo Zone, and they offer like sort of 100 rounds of this, 100 rounds of that at very competitive prices. But what they sent me, which is good, was the old 55 grain ball cartridge, which is the original M193 round, as issued to the gun all the way through Vietnam and everything like that. Then the 5.56 NATO ball, which is a 62 grain bullet, which is a much more technical bullet and more in keeping with the fact that the 223 or 5.56 cartridge needed a better bullet. And three, this is a 69 grain match load. All these three are from a Lithuanian company called GGG, and they make some very good ammunition. And this stuff, say, this is NATO specs that actually make it, the Brits use this. So what you have here is three good examples of the evolution of the 223/556 cartridge, sporting as well as military. Furthermore, and because the rifle is advertised with 1/8 twist, which is pretty fast now, I have a box of PPU 75 grain boat toe hollow point. Again, it's a similar bullet, or it could be the same. It could be actually a Sierra bullet, which is their boat toe hollow point match bullet, as this GGG, which it does say it's a Sierra bullet. So this is how the rifle comes out the box. Black synthetic stock, as I said. the four-way alloy forend. Comes complete with this pistol grip as well. But you also get, as standard with each rifle, 3 magazines. They're all different capacities, all of which have their uses. There's a 10, which is for prone work and things, quite useful because the banana mag of the AK does stick down a bit. 20, general use for most things, most courses of fire if you don't want the long mag, or the standard 30 banana mag, as you obviously see here, because 223 is a straight wall type cartridge, whereas the 762x39 is tapered. Therefore, this is not as savagely curved, but it still sticks out the gun a fair bit when it's inserted. But the mags work well, they're polymer, they feed well, no complaints there. Up front you have more of an M16 type flash hider, which is slotted rather than the angled break of the original AKM. This is on a left hand 14mm thread, so you can just press the locking catch, wind it off. You can put a mod on if you want to. You can also see the standard AK front sight, which is adjustable for windage and elevation. A tool comes with the rifle. Here we see a bit better detail of forend. It is a quality piece of engineering, no question about it. This is the pistol grip. That can be moved up and down however you want it. I find on a straight pull a pistol grip's quite useful, because when you're letting go with your firing hand to actually cycle the action, then this gives you more to get hold of. So you've got Picatinny there, you can put a red dot on here. On the side you can put what you like, and as you've seen I had a bipod on it. One thing I would say, if you are going to run this gun without the pistol grip, then I would get some Picatinny rail guards, because these are quite aggressive to hold on to when you're shooting. Because it's a 223 gun, though the barrel's the same at just over 16 inches, there's more barrel metal there, so the barrel is technically heavier than a 30 caliber barrel. Also, this Picatinny machining is a lot heavier than the standard AKM forend, the wooden forend. But again, well worth the effort. Rear sight is a pre-notched tangent system, so you squeeze these two buttons together and the U-notch moves up and down. But the sights are served. If you want to shoot iron sights with it, you can adjust it up how you want, and it'll be good for you. Got to be able to do a couple of things with this rifle, which is a little bit different. First of all, the classic big and noisy clattery AK safety catch remains, but they've added like a thumb shelf to make it potentially easy to operate. Ambidextrous mag release paddle, nice, works well. The trigger, always a weird thing on AKs. The trigger is big, curved, smooth, nice lot to get hold of. There's a pretty decent sort of reach to pull, not amazing but pretty good, given this large AR-15 type pistol grip on the gun. But there's no real first and second point on the trigger. You pull it back and it just goes. You know, with most systems where you pull it back, there's a sort of a hesitation, there's like a slight stop feeling, and you know if you continue the pressure then it's going to break. It's not easy to read, and you do have to practice with the trigger, because otherwise if you think it's going to go and it doesn't go and your sight picture's wrong, as you see what I'm talking about, it's one of those things. But they're all like that, and it would have been nicer if they'd perhaps thought about putting almost like some sort of two-stage system in there to actually stop that happening, because that will affect accuracy. I won't go into stripping, we've done it before, so it's on the other video, have a look at it. But it's an easy gun to strip, easy gun to maintain. You can see, whereas the AR-15 is quite high-tech by comparison, this is very basic, but not in a bad way. It's workmanlike, it works. I mean, there's rumours that you never need to clean an AK, blah, blah, blah. That's a lot of tosh. You need to clean any rifle. But this is probably more tolerant of abuse than something as sophisticated as a modern sort of NATO battle rifle. Probably the biggest not failing of the AK system is the fact that it's a very, very short butt. If I put my hand up here, usually when you measure length of butt pull, that's where my elbow hinges, and that is where really the butt should be, about there. But this is, as you can see, is a good 2 inches shy of that. So when you're in the aim, you're really right up here, and if you've got an optic on board, then you need to have the optic as far forward as you possibly can to get a decent sight picture. Okay, so talking about the length of pull on the fixed AK butt, very short indeed. And first I'd like to thank Anthony Bill from Shooting Supplies, who brings in FAB Defense, who are a company much like Magpul, who make all sorts of stocks, pistol grips, foreends, butts, magazines, comb risers, bipods, all that sort of stuff to fit your most common and popular rifles like the AK-47, the AR-15, M16. Okay, so what they sent me first of all was a buffer tube, and it's called the RBT K47. And it just fits straight on the back of the rifle. All you do is take the butt off. And for a butt, we have the core AR-15 M4 buttstock. It's quite a simple buttstock, but as we shall see, it does give you a little bit more comb height, and also the comb is longer and gives you better cheek support. As you can see in use, I've got the scope mounted much more normally, and I've got the butt out to setting 7, which works for me. Setting 8, perhaps a tad too long. Bit ironic that, complaining about butt lengths. But this is about right for me. Also, as you see, this is the comb here is ambidextrous, more of a triangular shape. And although this goes down a little bit, compared to the existing butt, it offers a lot more possibilities. Better head support. I could shoot this without really having put an extended comb on it. The other nice thing is, it's got a rubber butt pad, curved so it fits the shoulder nicely. So overall, a much better mousetrap with a lot of potential. Okay, let's just put a few rounds through it. Madness not to. Clear. Just shooting it in the shoulder, it felt better. Slightly less recoil, and there's no recoil on 223 per se, but slightly less felt recoil. Much better security with the rubber and a better head position. A newer feature on this rifle is the fact that it has what I would call sort of a hybrid type hold open system. Most AKs I've shot, they don't. Once you're empty, you fire your last round, boom, it shuts an empty chamber, and that's that. This doesn't, but if you pull it back like so, then you ease it forward, it stops, and there's like a spring sort of plunger there that just holds the bolt. The only thing is, it doesn't physically lock it, so all you need to do is just hit that or go forward. And if you're not careful, you've got your finger in there and you happen to let it go, it can be quite painful. But it's an interesting solution. A final item is something that you can get for the AKs, all sorts of different ones, because this is, well, originally it was built as a night vision mount. The Russians used to make some rather hideous one-piece scopes with a mounting system in them. Quite primitive, but if you wanted a scope in your AK, and let's face it, if you're going to shoot practical, then again you're up against AR-15s, which are so scope friendly it's not true, then it's almost mandatory. The problem is that when the Russian scopes are on, they are massively high, and you've got a short butt with virtually no comb, and your head's flailing around in mid-air. Not a good look. So this day and age, I would say you probably do need some sort of optical base, because it makes the rifle more competitive at certain distances and also certain uses. So this is the WBP mount. It's pretty much a copy of the Russian mount, but by the same token, it's a little bit better in layout and features. It has a single locking lever there. Catch this. What you do, you put it on, run it forward till it stops, push the lever forward, and it clicks in like that, so it won't move. And as you can see here, we have a decent length of Picatinny rail, which is good. I mean, this is a Trigicon ACOG, one of the new battery operated ones. And so it's quite small and compact, 4 power, 4x32, so the sort of thing that would be very practical on a rifle. And that's the other thing with this, because this is quite high, and all this stuff is quite high, you've got to think how you mount your scope. If you have like sort of something like a 3 to 12 by 50, then you're going to need massively high rings to get over all this stuff, which again exacerbates the head problem with the lack of comb. I picked a 1:6 by 24 Leopold, which is probably enough mag, but I can mount it quite flat to the rifle. Okay, let's see how this runs. Pistol grip fitted, which does give a bit more control when you're shooting. 30 round mag, it's only got 10 in it. Nose it in, lock it, and it's there. And with the action held open, you can either pull back and let go, or just do this. Hit it like that. Entirely up to you. Okay, let's go. Okay, we're clear. Okay, so final thoughts of the rifle. First thing is, in 223, it's a lot more reliable. Did have some hard extractions with the steel cased military ball with the 72 by 39, which is to be expected a little bit, but with 223 it was smooth as silk. Also, not one single hard extraction. AR-15s can be a bit hinky on extraction. Sometimes if the round's a little bit overpowered or the bullet's a little bit heavy and it increases the pressure, it makes it hard to open up, or sometimes we do get it stuck. So that's one mark for it. Magazine's going reasonably well, so there's no automatic last round hold open. So on a mag change, if you don't count your rounds, then you're going to be slower than an AR-15, where you can just, gun goes empty, just pop the mag button, the magazine falls away. But that's the nature of the beast. Easy to control, say light in recoil, all the things that 223 is really good for. You've got a platform for optics if you need it. So from that point of view, it's a nice little rifle. Obviously you are a little bit limited by the short butt and the low comb, but that's surmountable, not a problem at all. Ammunition wise, I tried to chronograph it. I've got a Magnum Speed chronograph electric one, and it wouldn't pick up the rounds going through, which doesn't surprise me because I had to mount it back here. So the only thing I can say, from a 16.5-inch tube, you are going to get a loss of velocity. It's as simple as that. I would expect to lose between 150 and 200 feet per second, but that's the way it is. You just adjust accordingly on your optics or however you're shooting the thing. Actually, it was interesting because it's a 1 8 twist barrel, which is pretty tight, and the 55 grain M193 ball round shot all over the place. It was just, I tried it a number of times, off a bipod, off a bag, doing my best to do it properly, but it would not play, and it doesn't surprise me because the bullet's too light for the twist. Moving up to 62 grain in these, what I would call the SS109, the NATO load now, that pulled an inch quite easily. Then I thought that's not too bad. Then moving up to the 69 grain Sierra bulleted GGG match, that was coming in, I'd say about just under the inch. There wasn't a lot in it. Then switching up to the 75 grain PPU Sierra, that was probably edging on the 3/4. Now you might say, well, that's not, an AR-15 can do that every day of the week, probably better. However, you've got to take into account the fact the short butt, the trigger, which I'm getting used to. You can not feel it, but you just know where it's going to go now. But it's still something that's a little bit incalculable. Plus the fact the only optic I had was that could reach out that far to 100. The ACOG's good, but it's not that sort of scope. The 1.6 by 24 Leopold, that fits there nicely, and I think putting a big scope in this rifle would be a mistake. But overall, if you take that into account, then I would say that those figures would improve with shooter knowledge in terms of the trigger pull and head position, that sort of thing. And also if you could get a more powerful optic, if you had something like a 1.8, 1:8 or 1:10, but in a compact format, that would suit that very nicely, because it wouldn't have to go up too high.
So yeah, it's a shooter, no question about that. What happens is if you're a little bit on the slow side, you can yank it back and the case will come out and bash you on the hand, and believe me, it can get quite painful if you're shooting a 30 round course of fire. And every time you cycle the gun, the case comes out and bashes you on the fingers, you start to get a bit flinchy about it. So again, as I said before in the other review, this works. If this were my rifle, this hook would come off and I'd put a dog leg with a handle, with a angle back down, which would cure those problems completely and probably make it faster to run. But that is really it. I genuinely like it. I mean, I like the AKM they did in 70x39, but having shot this one, I feel this has much more potential for today's modern shooter who wants a fun gun in an easily available and affordable caliber, something that will go toe-to-toe with AR-15 and wipe its face reasonably well. I'm not saying, I think if you got these on the range together, I think the AR-15 would outshoot the gun, but that's with the aspects of the butt, what you put on it, understand the trigger pull, and that is how I see this rifle. Yeah, if I was looking for a 223, I'd probably still have my AR-15 because I love them to bits, but something like this is a sort of a not fun carbine, that's a ridiculous thing to say, but as a little 16-inch carbine that's different, reliable as hell, no problems with primary extraction, ammo friendly, and just you've got to look at it and think, well, what do I want to change, as in optics or furniture. Ammo. So if you like that, tell your friends, tell me, don't care what you say, and it's pmoore.shootingsports@gmail.com, and as ever we'll have more stuff coming. So until then, be safe, shoot straight, and I'll see you again soon. Pete Moore signing off.